Have you ever stopped to think about the image of Christmas they sell us? You know what I mean. That perfect picture of pristine snow falling gently outside the window, a fireplace crackling with total safety, wool sweaters that are a bit itchy but look great in photos, and a family smiling around a turkey that looks like plastic. We've been convinced that this season is synonymous with peace, calm, silence, and soft hugs. But friends, let me tell you something. That is a wonderful lie. Because if we scratch the surface a little, if we move away from TV commercials and travel to certain corners of the world, Christmas has nothing to do with peace. It has to do with adrenaline, with fire, with chaos, and sometimes with surviving to tell the tale. Today we are not going to talk about sweet carols. Today we are going to travel to places where celebrating the birth of baby Jesus, or the change of the year, implies putting on a helmet, dodging punches, or running in front of a giant ball of fire. Welcome to the most dangerous, extreme, and absolutely fascinating Christmases on the planet. Our first stop takes us north, to the Scandinavian cold. You might think that Sweden is all order, minimalist design, and social security, right? Well, wait until you see what happens in the city of Gävle when December approaches. Since 1966, this city has had a tradition that sounds adorable on paper, building a giant version of the traditional Swedish Yule goat, the Yule Bock. We are talking about a beast of straw that weighs tons, stands over 13 meters high, and dominates the castle square with a majestic air. It is a beautiful piece of engineering, made with thousands of knots of rope and golden straw. But what makes the Gävle goat famous is not its construction, it is its destruction. Because the real tradition in Gävle is not admiring the goat. The real tradition, even if it is illegal, is trying to burn it down before Christmas Day arrives. It is an undeclared war between the authorities and anonymous arsonists, and the history of this goat is a criminal record worthy of an action movie. It's not just someone throwing a match. Oh no. People here are creative. We have seen everything. On one occasion, a guy dressed as Santa Claus and another dressed as a gingerbread man sneaked up and shot flaming arrows at it with a bow, as if they were elves from an elite commando unit. In another year, they tried to kidnap it using a helicopter. Yes, a real helicopter to fly the goat away. The authorities have tried everything to protect it. They have put up security guards, 24-hour surveillance cameras, double fences. They have even soaked the straw with fire-retardant chemicals. The result? The goat has been reduced to ashes more than 30 times in the last 50 years. Sometimes it lasts a few hours. Sometimes it makes it to Christmas Eve. Even online betting sites allow you to wager money on how long it will last this year. It is the only place in the world where watching a pile of straw burning in the middle of a square is a cause for national celebration and, at the same time, a federal crime. But if you think fire is dangerous, wait until you see how they solve their problems in the Peruvian Andes. We swapped the polar cold of Sweden for the altitude of the Chumbivilcas province near Cusco. Here, December 25th is not celebrated by opening gifts in pajamas. Here, they celebrate Takanakuy, and the name already gives you a clue. Because in Quechua, it literally means to hit each other. Forget diplomacy. Forget passive-aggressive chats at Christmas dinner with your brother-in-law. In Chumbivilcas, if you have a problem with someone, an unpaid debt, a love affair, a land dispute, or simply someone looked at you wrong in the market, you wait until December 25th, and on that day, in front of the whole town, you solve it with bare fists. The fascinating thing is that it is not a messy bar fight. It is a ritual. It has rules. It has music. People dress in spectacular traditional costumes, colorful ski masks, hats with stuffed animals, and Andean Mad Max-style leather jackets. The fighters go out to the center of the circle, call each other by name, and start exchanging hard, dry, real blows. There are referees with whips to ensure things don't get out of hand, and that no one hits when the other is on the ground. And here comes the most incredible part. The fight ends, they give each other a hug, and the conflict is considered resolved. They start the new year without grudges, with a swollen face, yes, but with a clean soul. It is a brutal, direct community justice, and curiously, very effective for maintaining social peace the rest of the year. All this happens while hypnotic music plays, the Wailia, and alcohol flows freely to anesthetize the blows. Now, if you thought burning a straw goat was a lot of fire, let me take you to Central America, to Guatemala. There, they have a very particular way of preparing for the Immaculate Conception and the Christmas holidays. It is called La Quema del Diablo, the burning of the devil. The idea is symbolic and beautiful, taking everything bad out of your house to start the year with purity. But the execution is, well, it is hell on earth. On December 7th, at 6 in the evening sharp, the entire country lights up. Traditionally, people took out old trash, broken furniture, and everything that cluttered spiritually, and piled it up in the street. On top of the pile, they place an effigy of the devil, sometimes small, sometimes gigantic, made of papier-mâché and wire, and they set it on fire. But it is not a small bonfire. Imagine thousands and thousands of bonfires burning simultaneously in every street, in every neighborhood, in every city. The smoke is so dense that it can be seen from miles away. The air becomes unbreathable. And as if that weren't enough fire, people throw firecrackers, rockets, and fireworks directly into the bonfires. It is a chaos of noise, black smoke, and flames reaching several meters high, often dangerously close to power lines and houses. Guatemala's firefighters have more work that night than in the rest of the year combined. It is a collective catharsis where the bad is literally burned, but where the risk of burning the good is also extremely high. And speaking of fire and unnecessary risk, let's go back to Europe, but this time to the United Kingdom. The British have a reputation for being reserved people, right? Well, in the small town of Ottery St. Mary in Devon, that reputation goes out the window on November 5th. Although technically it is Guy Fawkes Night, it marks the start of the winter festive season with a tradition that defies any modern health and safety standard: the tar barrels. We are not talking about rolling barrels. No, we are talking about men, women, and even children who carry barrels of wood soaked in boiling tar and flames on their backs. And they run. They run through the narrow, medieval streets of the town, which are packed with thousands of spectators. There are no safety fences. There is no buffer zone. If you are there, you are part of the circuit. The barrel carriers, who are local veterans, because this is something inherited from generation to generation, you can't just sign up, move like human locomotives wrapped in fire. The heat is so intense that it burns their clothes, and they have to protect themselves with layers of burlap and gloves made by hand with wire and leather. The crowd has to physically move out of the way or be run over by a 50-kilo barrel in flames. It is a dangerous dance between the public and the fire. The goal is to get as far as possible with the barrel before the heat becomes unbearable and you have to pass it to someone else or drop it on the ground. It is a tradition that dates back to the 17th century and has survived all modern safety regulations simply because the town refuses to let it die. They say it is to scare away evil spirits, but looking at it from the outside, it seems more like a test of collective courage, a way of saying that neither fire nor fear will be able to defeat them this winter. If you thought running in front of a fireball or burning a giant goat in Sweden was the limit, buckle up, because what we have seen so far is just the warm-up. Now we are going to cross the Atlantic to the Caribbean, but not to relax on the beach. We are going to get straight into zones where Christmas Eve sounds more like heavy artillery than silent night. Welcome to Cuba, specifically to the town of Remedios. Forget the image of mojitos under the palm tree and smooth salsa. If you go to Remedios on December 24th, what you will find looks more like a war zone in full swing. These are Las Parrandas de Remedios, and the story of how it started is great because of how absurd it is. In the 19th century, a young priest was fed up with people falling asleep and not going to midnight mass. His solution? Hiring a gang of kids to make noise in the street with cans, whistles, cowbells, and old pots to wake up the neighbors by force. It worked, but as often happens with brilliant and noisy ideas, it got out of hand. 200 years later, that innocent noise has turned into a pitched battle of heavy pyrotechnics between two rival neighborhoods, San Salvador and El Carmen. And we are not talking about a few pretty rockets bursting neatly in the sky. We are talking about fire at will. Each neighborhood builds trabajos, gigantic neon light structures that look like electric cathedrals 20 meters high, and accumulates an arsenal of fireworks all year round in secret warehouses. When night comes, the sky disappears. Hell breaks loose. The mortars, which they call palenques there, are launched by the thousands. The problem is that, being homemade, they don't always go up. Sometimes they explode at ground level, sweeping the streets with sparks and smoke. People don't run to take cover. People run towards the fire. You see grandmothers, children, and tourists dancing in the middle of the square amidst clouds of gunpowder smoke, so dense you can barely see your own hand. The ground shakes beneath your feet. The facades of colonial churches light up with stroboscopic flashes that look like bombings from an action movie. It is a fierce competition to see who makes the most noise and who lights up the sky the most. And safety is, let's say, an abstract concept. It is the literal definition of playing with fire, but elevated to the category of national pride. If you survive a parranda in Remedios without a burn on your shirt, you haven't been close enough. But if Cuba is organized fire by neighborhoods, what happens in Colombia is a total demographic explosion. We have to talk about La Alborada in Medellin. Here, the danger is not the fire itself, but the density of the gunpowder. Although it has generated much controversy in recent years due to the suffering of pets and the risk of fires, the tradition persists with brutal force. On the night of November 30th to December 1st, the entire city celebrates the arrival of the Christmas month. And when I say the entire city, I mean the entire Alborada Valley. At midnight, there is no central point for fireworks. Every terrace, every balcony, every corner of every neighborhood becomes a launch pad. If you look at the city from the surrounding mountains, it looks like the entire valley is erupting. The sound is a continuous, dull, deep roar that doesn't stop for almost an hour. The air fills with a thick smell of sulfur that lasts for days. It is a welcome to Christmas that smells of burnt gunpowder and sounds like battle. It is visually impressive, a sea of lights exploding beneath your feet. But walking down the street that night requires nerves of steel, because you never know if the neighbor upstairs is going to drop a firecracker just when you walk by their door. Now, let's change continents and the type of danger. Let's leave explosives and talk about direct physical violence. Because in Austria and southern Germany, Santa Claus, or Saint Nicholas, doesn't come alone. He comes with his evil twin, the Krampus. And this is not a legend to scare children before sleep. This is very real. In early December, the Krampuslauf, or Krampus runs, are held. And these are not Disney parades. They are hordes of young men dressed in real goat skins that smell like wet animal, wearing hand-carved wooden masks that are authentic nightmares. Twisted horns, hanging red tongues, bulging eyes, and sharp teeth. They carry giant cowbells on their backs that make a deafening noise when running. But the worst part is not the look. The worst part is what they carry in their hands: birch branches or braided horsetails. And they use them. If you go to see a Krampus parade and stand in the front row, get ready. The Krampus jump the fences, run towards the crowd, and whip the spectators on the legs. It is not theater. It hurts for real. They leave a mark. It is a mixture of terror and nervous laughter. People run, scream, and push each other to escape the demons, while they roar and chase the teenagers who dare to provoke them. In the middle of an idyllic Christmas market with pretty lights and mulled wine, suddenly you have 20 furry beasts hitting people. It is the medieval reminder that if you behave badly, coal is the least of your problems. The problem is the monster with the whip. And speaking of whips and urban chaos, we cannot ignore the anarchy of Naples, Italy on New Year's Eve. They say Naples is an intense city any day of the year, but on the night of December 31st, it enters a state of festive siege. Here, the official fireworks tradition mixes with a black market of illegal explosives that have names as terrifying as the Maradona bomb or the Bin Laden. They are firecrackers with the power of a dynamite cartridge, capable of blowing up mailboxes and dumpsters. But the real danger in Naples doesn't come only from below, it comes from above. There is an old tradition, increasingly less common but still persisting in certain neighborhoods, like the Quartieri Spagnoli, of throwing old things out the window to throw out the bad of the past year. And when I say things, I don't mean confetti. I mean ceramic plates, toasters, old clothes, and, in legendary cases, even toilets or small furniture. Walking through those narrow alleys at midnight is an extreme sport. You have to look at the ground so as not to step on an explosive, and look at the sky so an old iron doesn't fall on your head. The city screams, explodes, and shakes off the demons of the old year with a violence that is, in its own way, poetic. The next day, the streets look like a battlefield, full of red debris from firecrackers and remains of appliances. But people smile. They have survived another year. Let's lower the revolutions a bit. Or maybe not. Let's swap urban chaos for fire in the wild nature. We travel to the swamps of Louisiana in the United States. Here, on the levees of the Mississippi River, Christmas has a Cajun flavor and lots of wood. It is the tradition of the bonfires on the levee. Legend says the bonfires are lit to light the way for Papa Noel, the Cajun Santa Claus, who travels in a canoe pulled by alligators, not reindeer. To help him not get lost in the swamp fog, locals build colossal wooden pyramids along miles of the riverbank. But they are not simple piles of firewood. They are works of ephemeral architecture. They build castles, steamboats, trucks, and even giant lobsters made of logs, some over 10 meters high. On Christmas Eve, at sunset, they set fire to everything simultaneously. Imagine the scene. The black and deep Mississippi River, reflecting miles of giant structures burning furiously on the bank. The heat is so intense that you have to move away several meters. There are no modern safety barriers. There are entire families picnicking in front of towers of fire that creak and collapse spectacularly while sparks fly into the night sky and fall on the dark water. It is a primitive image, almost Viking, in the heart of the deep south of America. It is beautiful, yes, but being there, amidst the river mud and the roar of 100 giant bonfires, reminds you how small a person is in the face of the power of fire. And to finish our journey through white danger, we return to Europe, to the Alps, France, Switzerland, Austria. Here, Christmas is the classic postcard of snow and skiing. But in many resorts, they have a tradition that visually is one of the most shocking and dangerous things if it goes wrong. The Torchlight descents. Imagine the scene. It is pitch black. You are at 2,000 meters high, with a cold that freezes your eyelashes and the wind howling. And suddenly, at the top of the mountain, you see a snake of fire appear. Hundreds of skiers are coming down black and red runs, holding real fire torches. Not LED lights, living fire, dripping wax or burning fuel. They come down at full speed, creating a river of human lava that winds through the virgin snow. It looks controlled from afar, an elegant choreography. But think about it for a second. You are skiing in the dark on an icy slope, surrounded by 100 other people, and you are all carrying a burning stick in your hand. If someone falls, and they do fall, the torch rolls down the slope. Snow doesn't burn, sure, but ski suits do. And the collision between skiers in the dark adds a risk factor that turns this parade into an act of faith. The image from the valley is hypnotic, a scar of light ripping through the mountain. But being up there, with the roar of fire in your ear and the freezing wind on your face, is a primitive experience. It is man mastering the two most hostile elements, ice and fire. So, what does all this tell us? Why, instead of sitting eating nougat and singing carols, do some people choose to stand in front of a bull, run with a burning barrel, let themselves be whipped by a demon, or get into a rocket war? Maybe it's because Christmas, in its deepest origin, is not just about peace and silence. It's about light against darkness. It's about celebrating life right at the darkest, coldest, and deadest moment of the year. And there is no better way to feel alive than feeling the heat of fire on your face, the adrenaline rush when you dodge a whip, or the roar of an explosion that shakes your chest. These dangerous traditions are our human way of shouting at winter, at darkness, and at the night. We are still here, and we burn brighter than you. So this year, when you are opening your gifts quietly on the sofa with the heating on, remember the people of Remedios dancing among explosions, the brave ones of Gävle watching their goat, and the skiers carrying fire in the Alps. And give thanks that your biggest danger tonight is simply that the toast burns. Merry Christmas, and stay safe out there.